Welcome to this edition of National Focus. I'm Kimani Saint-Jean. Coming up, the late Swanston Carbon will be afforded an official funeral on Saturday. A system to supply water to Sylvania and Despor is in the works, and the small islands and developed countries partner for sustainable development. Stay tuned for details of these and other stories after this.
A lot of bathtubs are blamed for bruises. Some staircases are accused of being responsible for broken bones. Doors are occasionally viewed suspiciously as causing lesions. A high percentage of tables are accused of producing bleeding or trauma. Violence against women is a crime, and it's everyone's responsibility. It's inexcusable. If you're a victim or witness of physical or psychological violence or abuse, seek help and denounce the perpetrator.
Thanks for staying with us. The Prime Minister, Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, speaking candidly with residents of Despor, has promised them a system that will supply reliable, safe drinking water to their homes. The proposed water system will supply the communities of Despor and Sylvania. This means that the entire island will achieve Goal 7C of the United Nations Millennium Development Goals. The goal requires that countries of the world reduce by half the proportion of the population without sustainable access to potable water and sanitation by the year 2015. A system to supply Despor and Sylvania will mean that Dominica will in fact recognize 100% access to potable water. In Despor, Honorable Skerrit explained the plan to residents.
We had a bigger project to do the Bells, Penrise, Sylvania, Despor water project. That project would have cost us in excess of $5 or $6 million. I did not have all of the money to do the entire project. And therefore, we decided to concentrate on the Bells section of the water project. But with the grace of God, since we sent out the tender, I have been able to identify the additional funding required for the Sylvania Despor section of the water. Because if you realize, the tank will be constructed in the roundabout at Poncase, so which make it easier for us to get the water to you. And I will be speaking to Duwasco this week to ask that there be a variation in the contracts already approved to allow the existing contractors to add this part of the country to the water project, which would give us at the end of this project 100% access to potable water in Dominica.
Honorable Skerrit continued that these achievements result from government's targeted approach to improve access to potable water.
This has been done by a concentrated and targeted and deliberate investments by this government in water systems across Dominica. In the last 10 years, we have spent over $125 million in improving water systems across Dominica. And then people will tell you that we have not done anything.
The United Nations says as of 2012, 748 million people remained without access to an improved source of drinking water, while the Labour Party government of Dominica is working feverishly to eradicate pit latrines through its sanitation program. 2.5 billion people in developing countries still lack access to improved sanitation facilities. Small developing countries have sent a strong message to the international community at the 3rd Conference of the United Nations on Small Island Developing States, or SIDS. A major highlight on the first day of the conference, held in Apia, Samoa, from September 1st to 4th, was the signing of the historic SIDS Dock Treaty. The SIDS Dock is a sustainable energy and climate resilient treaty that will significantly change the lives of millions of small islanders for the better. The SIDS Dock partners are Denmark, Japan, and Austria, the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, the World Bank, the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO, and the Clinton Foundation. Several seeds got the platform to showcase their progress on renewable energy.
Number of islands signed on to the SIDS-DOC in making the SIDS-DOC a legal framework within the United Nations. So right now, countries like Dominica and a number of other Caribbean countries and some from the African and Indian seeds and also the Pacific seeds sign on to SIDS-DOC, making it, as I said, a legal framework within the United Nations, going to be bounded right now by international regulations and laws, etc. So this is promising. A number of countries have also, I remember when SIDS-DOC was started, I think 3 years ago, I was the one who signed on to SIDS-DOC on behalf of Dominica at one of the climate change conferences, I think in Cancun it was, and we only 1 or 2 countries pledged their support to it. Right now we have a number of countries coming on board, a number of developed countries like Japan, a number of the European Union countries. So we see a bright future in SIDS-DOC, and of course those of us who remember what it's like, what it is about is really a framework to allow the countries, the small islands, to develop their renewable energy potential.
The treaty was signed by the governments of Dominica, Barbados, Belize, Bahamas, Cape Verde Islands, Cook Islands, the Dominican Republic, Fiji, Grenada, Guinea-Bissau, Kiribati, Niue, Palau, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Samoa, Seychelles, and Tuvalu. Honorable Darrow signed on behalf of Dominica. He said Dominica was acknowledged for the island's progress in the development of its geothermal resource.
Of course, Dominica also came into sharp focus. We've been recognized for our tremendous initiative as it pertains to geothermal. Having spent, that was one of the highlights of my contribution to the plenary meeting, which is the general meeting, as to the amount of resources we've invested so far in our geothermal exploration.
Dr. Darrow is optimistic that help will come from the SIDS-DOC partners to further Dominica's geothermal resource. He believes that developed countries have the responsibility to partner with smaller islands for sustainable development.
We had very little to do with what is happening as it pertains to climate change. Our greenhouse gas emissions are negligible. And we think that the developed countries who do the bulk of the greenhouse gas emissions, have to really start helping us, because we're definitely going to be needing help. And in fact, it's predicted with the path the world is going. Of course, if the developed countries do not cut down on the carbon emissions, that maybe as early as 10, 20 years, that some islands in the Pacific could literally disappear.
The UN's SIDS conference is held every decade. The first 2 meetings were held in Barbados and Mauritius. The theme of the conference this year was the sustainable development of small island developing states through genuine and durable partnerships. In other news, on Tuesday, when the nation's finance minister, Prime Minister Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, personally delivered a check for the complete rehabilitation of the Despor Main Road, he also pledged the government's full support of a Despor farmers group. Currently, no such group exists in that community, but Honorable Skerrit advised the community that it would be in their best interest to immediately form one.
For me, agriculture is so important, and I'm happy to see the agricultural production. And I would like to come back and speak to the farmers. Do you have a farmers group here? I would encourage you to organize yourselves in a farmers group, so that when I come back, we can speak to a group rather than individuals, and to see what kind of support we can provide to you to expand your agricultural produce, to make your way of life in agriculture much more productive. If you organize a group, I'm committing to giving you an amount of money to purchase fertilizer, so that you can sell the fertilizer at a 60% discount to you here in the farmers here in Despor, to make it much cheaper for you to purchase fertilizer and the quantity that you require. So the challenge to you here this evening is to form this farmers group. And once you do this, you open an account at the credit union, you tell the power rep that you have formed the farmers group. I guarantee you I'll come back in short order to make a presentation to you, to allow you to start a revolving fund, a revolving program of buying fertilizer and selling it at 60% discounted price to the farmers here in Despor, right here in Despor.
A $325,000 check was delivered that day for the Despor Main Road, which was promised by the parliamentary representative, Honorable Rayburn Blackmore. In more news, Crime Stoppers Dominica has received just over $40,000 in their fight against crime. Ross University School of Medicine Dominica campus gave a donation to the organization on Thursday to what they say is a successful program. Senior Associate Dean at Ross University, Dr. Dean Weaver, said their increase in donation speaks volumes of the faith that they have in the organization.
Crime Stoppers are something that's all over the world that has made a difference in the safety of communities, in making, especially for our students, feel safe, our faculty feels safe, and our staff feels safe in this community. On behalf of Ross University, it gives me great pleasure to present to you a check in the amount of $40,753.90 EC. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Crime Stoppers is a community-based non-profit organization where civilians can anonymously give tips about crimes that have been committed. Since its inception in Dominica, it has helped the police find perpetrators. Executive Director of Crime Stoppers Dominica, Genevieve Astafan, says the donation will go a long way in helping get the message out that Crime Stoppers works.
The money will be used to help Crime Stoppers get the message out and to help in paying the rewards to the people who have provided tips that have led the police to arresting persons who have committed a crime or allegedly committed a crime. So that's what we're going to use the money for public awareness, to raise public awareness, to let them know how the program works, and for the reward money, because when your tip has led to the successful arrest of someone, you're entitled to a reward. So this will help us to meet these costs.
Astafans applauded the Dominican public for playing their part in bringing criminals to justice.
The Dominican public has really embraced this concept because not only it allows them to do their civic duty without exposing themselves publicly, and it's also free. There's no cost to it. Both Lime and Digicel have come on board with this. So, you know, there's no cost to you. It's free. You give your information. You can stop something from happening. You can provide the police with information that will help them solve something that has happened. And I'd like to encourage everybody, both here and the listening public, to really embrace this. It works, you know, and it's something that can go a long way in helping us become a better island.
The size of the donation from Ross has increased. And the reason that's what we consider a sizable donation is that it's a successful program. If the program was not successful, if there was some question of the program, well, certainly we would not have made as large a donation to Crime Stoppers. They are successful. It's a good program, and we believe in rewarding success.
If anyone has any tips that could lead to solving a crime, they can call Crime Stoppers at 1-800-8477 or visit their website at crimestoppersdominica.org. The late Senator and Deputy Speaker of the House, Swanston Carbon, will be afforded an official funeral this Saturday, September 3rd. The late Swanston Carbon, a stalwart of the Dominica Freedom Party, served as a government senator from 1980 to 1990. He held the post as Deputy Speaker of the House of Assembly from 1990 until 1995. Mr. Carbon, who hailed from Glanville, Portsmouth, also contested the Roseau South constituency seat on a Freedom Party ticket in the 2000 general elections. He served the Roseau City Council for 7 years. His Excellency the President Charles Savary and Mrs. Savary, Prime Minister the Honorable Roosevelt Skerritt and Mrs. Skerritt, members of Cabinet, the Honorable Speaker of the House of Assembly, Alex Boyd Knight, members of Parliament, members of the Diplomatic Corps and other government officials are expected to attend the official funeral of the late Swanston Carbon. Public viewing will be from 2 p.m. and the funeral begins at 3 at Our Lady of Fatima Parish in Newtown. The late Swanston Carbon will be laid to rest at the Roseau Public Cemetery. Saturday has also been declared an official day of mourning on which the Dominican flag will be flown at half-staff. Swanston Carbon died on August 31st. He was 69 years old. And finally, throughout the months of June to September 2014, the Discover Dominica Authority, DDA, held a series of training sessions targeted towards enhancement of the tourism sector's human resource. The DDA's Head of Product Development, Kathleen Coffey John Jules, says these workshops fit in with DDA's corporate strategy to increase visitor arrival and expenditure.
All the sessions focus on strengthening the existing capacities and refreshing service providers in the key areas of tourism and in the delivery of quality service. It is expected that the series of training will ensure qualified tourism service providers maintain a high standard of service and ultimately impact the level of visitors' experience while they're on island. We are allocating a lot of our resources on human resource development because at the end of the day, we have the product. Yes, the product has to be enhanced, but the persons to provide the product have to be at a certain standard, have to be able to provide good customer service because at the end of the day, it's all about experiences. When people come to Dominica, if they do not have good experiences, whether by just interacting with a vendor, with a taxi driver, it spoils the whole vacation experience, and Dominica gets branded. So our focus not only on training and human resource, but significantly on that area. We think that there's definitely need for that. So we'll continue to do as we go through the season. It's difficult to do it during the season, so we'll try to do it during the off-season, June to September.
The trainings included one-day sessions targeting taxi service providers, hair braiders, Indian River tour guides, craft and souvenir vendors, and wait staff, totaling 134 individuals. Coffey John Jules highlighted the significance of training vendors and taxi drivers in particular.
The emphasis was on seeking the vendors or getting them to cooperate to sell authentic craft products and souvenir items because we know they are very important in terms of their interaction with visitors. They are one of the first point of interaction with our visitors on the island, and we think that customer service is key. We also have taxi drivers training that we conducted during this period. We know that, again, that they are one of our key ambassadors in terms of tourism. So 24 taxi drivers were trained in financial management, tour planning, customer service, and operations. That was done very well. It was done again in collaboration with the Combined Taxi Association.
Every year, with the support of the DDA, the Taxi Association conducts training for up to 50 operators. Secretary and Training Officer of Combined Taxi Incorporated, Margel Durand, says he is pleased with the level of professionalism displayed by taxi conductors.
I have seen a lot of improvement, although things are still a bit chaotic on the bayfront in particular. But I've seen a lot of improvement in terms of deportment and attitude towards work. The customer service is really taking effect now because Coffee has been on my back to continue that thing every year. And those who are interested in learning, they are really showing the signs of improvement on that.
To date, approximately 191 service providers have benefited from training organized and funded by the DDA. And that's the English News. McPherson St. Luce is next with Creole Highlights.
Allô tout le monde, bienvenue à cette nouvelle en créole. Non, moi c'est McPherson St. Luce. Premièrement, le gouvernement Dominique est bien représenté en Grand Meeting Seeds qui prend place en Samoa. Ministre environ Honorable Dr. Kenneth Darrow est représenté Dominique en meeting là.
Premier c'était en Barbados, en 1990 que il y avait l'autre là c'était en Mauritius, il y avait troisième ça fait place en Samoa. Ça a fait chaque distance de yo roté la conférence là qu'a pour place dans le Caribbean là avec African Indian Ocean avec Pacific là. So conférence qu'on a dit c'était une conférence qui était concentrée en les issues small island developing states comme Dominique. Et bien, quand nous savons ces small island developing states nous divisé en trois groupes Caribbean, in African and Indian Ocean et Pacific. Et bien, nous savons tous ces problèmes qui confrontent small islands, comme small pays comme ça nous, issues called climate change, issues called sustainable development, employment, issues called try pour essayer pour develop renewable energy. Even yon bagay mou vle mention c'est ça nous d'accord c'est dans ces pays comme ça nous énergie potential espoir de resources comme renewable energy, mais ça nous besoin ces resources là pour développer. So nous natural resources là et ça nous besoin c'est help pour développer pour Dominique. Là nous avons actuellement développé géothermal, nous savons nous énergie géothermal mais nous besoin c'est bagay qui coûte l'argent pour développer.
En d'autres nouvelles, Festival Comité Dominica a couru publicité à ces stations radio où la public la tapé opportunité gagner ticket si yo weapon check si on qui mandé. Parole ça là sorti officier DFC Leroy Wadix Charles.
Donc là c'est un petit contest donc ba mon chance pour gagner différents tickets passoire peut-être ticket saison aussi. So nous mettons des trois questions ensemble et nous bat toutes ces différents radios là en chance pour tout le monde qui a écouté gagner des trois tickets et nous avons travaillé avec toute radio à Dominique, radio DBS, KRFM, QFM et aussi Vibes Radio et nous très contents de décider pour mettre tout ça ensemble pour l'année là. Ça c'est les premières fois nous avons fait ça ensemble avec toute radio ici à Dominique.
Il y a aussi une promotion à ces tickets tous les vendredis juste le bout de septembre.
Nous avons dit tout le monde à Dominique, pas oublier, spécial là sur ces tickets, c'est $200. Ça qui était le 30 septembre. Ça c'est le 30 septembre, toute saison ticket à sous vente spéciale qui est terminée à ça. So, nous avons dit tout le monde à toute la Dominique, toute communauté, c'est pour un bon avantage à ça. $200 et vous ça taper à ticket côté DFC, ça c'est la bar Financial Center Mitaozo. Et tous les vendredis, Digicel qui est en Tibitin côté devant un marché ça c'est à Mitaozo tous les vendredis 2h pour 3h. Mon ça acheter ticket seulement $200. Et tout ça qui était le 30 septembre. Le 1er octobre, puis là, pour ticket là qui est monté, so nous avons dit tout le monde, à tout quoi la Dominique, messieurs, mesdames, préparer causons pour prendre avantage à ce 6 tickets saison pour $200.
Alors, nous faisons le développement bien formidable qui prend place en constituency Maho. Parole ça là, sorti de membre parlement, Honorable Ribbon Blackmore. Honorable Blackmore fait parole ça là, pendant le Premier ministre Honorable Roosevelt Skirt, à ce que le gouvernement fait présentation au chèque $325 000 pour village council Despor, réhabiliter mine chimé village là. Chairman village council là, Kerry Saint-Hilaire, receive le chèque là à ce que le village council là. Quand même, membre parlement Honorable Ribbon Blackmore fait parole que moun Despor pas expérience ces problèmes ou la boss teni pour mettre moun à terre et puis yo teni à marcher en distance. Premier ministre Honorable Roosevelt Skirt et membre parlement Honorable Blackmore, oui monsieur résident pour patience à eux et puis aussi bien plaisir, bénéfice économique. Projet cela qui mène par eux. Finalement, compagnie d'Olowasco mérite un lot d'argent pour mener de l'eau potable en différentes communautés. Parole cela sorti officier relations publiques Edward Regis. Regis aussi fait parole que par l'année 2015, Dominique pays et payons 100% toute communauté en pays là ni de l'eau potable.
Nous avons fait effort tout le pays il a coûté autant d'argent même pour mener l'eau parce que même si Dominique plein de l'eau, mais c'est où la l'eau aille, l'eau dans les gros dalles, les gros ravines, les gros rivières dans le fond. Avec il a coûté autant d'argent pour nous amener pipe, pour nous amener différents butins, pour nous faire chemin pour aller pour joindre la gloire avec le gouvernement qui a fait un gros effort. Nous avons différents partenaires qui ont travaillé avec nous, comme EU, avec BNTF, avec Petro-Caribes et Mounsa, qui a apporté autant d'argent pour faire certain que nous ça mener l'eau Dominique tout un pays avec là nous finit avec tous ces projets ça Dominique est premier pays en toute la terre qui porte l'eau tout le monde tout peuple pays avec ça c'est un grand honneur même Dominique pour ça nous avons battre bravo au gouvernement avec tous ces gens qui gagnent de nous pour mener glou ba peuple pays.
Messieurs, mesdames, ça c'est tout pour nouvelles en créole pour à présent. Non, moi, c'est McPherson St. Louis. Au revoir.
Coming up next, a tip for a more productive day.
DOWASCO recognizes that clean water is vital to healthy living. Therefore, it spares no effort in providing a clean, safe, and reliable system. Help keep our rivers safe and clean. Do not cut trees along the river banks and do not pollute with garbage, human or animal feces, and chemicals. Think water, think life.
Time management classes or planners to organize your day barely help you to manage your time. Why? Because everything you ever learned about managing time is a complete waste of time. There are two types of time, clock time and real time. In real time, all time is relative. Here is one tip to eliminate time wasters for a more productive day. Practice not answering your cell phone just because it's ringing and messages just because they show up. Disconnect instant messaging. Don't offer an immediate response unless it's urgent. Block out other distractions like Facebook and other forms of social media unless you use these tools to make your day more productive. Instead, schedule a time to answer messages and return phone calls. And that's all for this edition of National Focus. We always welcome your suggestions and comments. Drop us an email at gis@dominica.gov.dm or visit our website news.gov.dm. Like us on our Facebook page, facebook.com/GIS News Dominica. You can also catch up on past National Focus newscasts on our GIS Dominica YouTube channel. From all of us here on the GIS News production team, I'm Kimani. Thanks for watching.